Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have decided that we're doing the Rosie crossbody bag. I've wanted this pattern for ages. I finally have it, and so I've made it. I read the instructions quickly beforehand, but I didn't pre-make one. So you'll see me run off camera for a second just to check a measurement. But yeah, so if you'd like to see how I make this bag, stay tuned. Okie dokie, let's do this. So I have all of my hardware, I hope, in this bag. Hoping I got it all this time instead of having to run away, but you never know. So I'm using 1 1/4 inch hardware. They actually sent it to me by accident. I wanted 1 inch and I was offered to send it back and they were like, no, have a refund. So I am stuck with it, but instead of just wasting it, I am going to use it. So I've got 3 tri-glide slides, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the middle piece with a pair of pliers. These are actually jewelry making pliers because I went through I want to make my own earrings, hence the ones in my head actually. I have a scan and cut machine by Brother, and so I cut leather earrings out of fluoro green vinyl that I got given, which I thought was really cool. Oh, not vinyl, sorry, leather. Alright, so now I have 2 rings and 1 tri-glide slide. You're also going to need a zipper for this, so I've got my zipper head. Alright, interfacing. So I have interfaced my lining pieces with the non-woven iron-on Birch heavy interfacing. And then the outside, I have got Formfuse 1600 by Charles Parsons and bag fleece. This one I accidentally scribbled on. It happens. You're not going to see it. I was cutting out a pattern and I just got a bit carried away and did too many. So instead of cutting them out, I've just reused it. But you can't see the lines through all the layers anyway, so it's fine. I'm using zipper tape by the meter, so I've chopped off a piece that I need. And I'm doing kind of a combo. So I've got a vinyl gusset and a vinyl main flap, and then a fabric body, which I'm sure you saw at the start of the video that I haven't recorded yet. Alright, so first off, I'm going to make my strap because I've got a fresh bobbin in and it makes me happy to do it that way. So, because my hardware is 1 1/4, this piece is 2 1/2 wide, so we're going to fold in the sides, and I'm just going to put some of this glitter vinyl accent strip. So I've just cut it at 1 inch. I'm not going to fold over the edges because the back is basically plastic, so it's not going to fray and carry on. So I'm just going to stitch that directly over the join. So you'll need a ruler and a pen, and then just measure a center line. So for me it's 1 1/4. But if you're using 1 inch hardware, you'd measure it at 1 inch. That pen doesn't work either. All my pens are running out. There we go. I do have a longer ruler, which could be quicker to rule this, but it's also harder to store, so it hangs up behind me. Alright, then we're going to grab your double-sided tape. So I went and got a new reel of the Woolies tape. It's $3 a roll, and you get like, I don't know, I think it's 12 meters, which apparently for me does not last very long. So I'm just sticking this directly over the line we just drew, as centered as I can. If you get thinner tape, you just put a line each side. So if you accidentally go and buy like a really thin tape, you just put 2 lines down. It'll still work, it'll just use up more tape. Alright, so I'm heating up the end to make sure it's stuck down. by just rubbing on it a little bit, and then I'm going to peel the backing off. So for my straps, I just cut the width of the vinyl. So my vinyl comes 150 wide, so I just cut a full width, and that is my strap. If I was making a kid's bag, I'd probably cut it down a little bit more, because that's too long for a child. But not by lots. Alright, so I'm just bending that over to the center line and then putting some pressure on it to make sure it sticks. I can't do both sides at once, so I just do one side at a time. Come here, scissors. I got a little bit of a bump. I forgot to cut that off before. So with my vinyl, I don't know if you can see the rolls behind me. So I try and cut all like angled pieces from one end, and I keep the other end straight for strapping and handles and stuff. I just find I waste less that way. So if one end's just for cutting like this, you're never going to have to trim it off. It's always just going to be a straight edge. And then the other end I will cut all like the shapes out of. I also don't buy it like crazy lots of meters at a time. If I had a 10-meter roll, I probably wouldn't do that. But I also might, at the start of it, cut off, say, 10 straps and just have them aside ready to go. You could just roll them up and stick them in a drawer or something. Just going along, sticking it down. Just make sure you put a lot of pressure on where you're sticking it so that the vinyl doesn't like flick up again. The thicker the vinyl, the more pressure you have to put. Nearly to the end. So when I get close to the end, I'll actually stop where I am and go to the end and square up that edge, so for no reason it's going to be angled. It'll be nice and neat and squared off. Because quick sticking comes with practice, and you might be tempted to kind of pull on it, which will make it angled, and then it'll make it ripple, and you don't want that. Alright, so that is my handle nice and stuck. So I put my thread in. I am using Ceraphil 40. And so then I'm just going to center this up, and I've got my stitch length on 3 3/4. So I'm just going to hand crank 3 stitches and then go back in the first hole and then stitch away. So I'm doing about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. The glitter does look lovely. I could have also gone with a skinnier stripe and had even less. That would have looked cool too. So I'm just lining it up as I go in the center. If you're worried that it's going to slip, you stick another piece of double-sided tape down the center and then just stick it on. So one of my vinyls is a little bit longer than the other one by like 3/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to chop that off later. It's not a problem right now. The other side always goes quicker. Chop off your tails, put them in the bin, and then I singe the end of my thread because it is a polyester. And then you can come back to the other end and just chop off that extra little bit of vinyl. Alright, one handle. So actually, I'll put that aside and we'll do that later. Just roll it up, sit it out of the way. Okay, so now I'm gonna go on to my outside panel. So I decided to do the outside panel for the video, just because I can. Now it says to fold it over. I'm not sure how much I trust it to stay folded over. So I'm going to use double-sided tape. You could also iron it, but I'm going to use double-sided tape. So this piece I just interfaced with the Birch heavy non-woven iron-on interfacing, just to give it a little bit of body and to not be floppy. Alright, and then we're just gonna fold it over. That way it's gonna sit where I want it to. If it's not sitting properly, you can just clip the edge because it is a curve. Smooth it all out. I like it. All right. Grab your flap and then just line it up in the center. Then I'm just going to top stitch that down. With a 1/8 seam allowance, I'm going to start at the top. You could also stitch along the bottom if you wanted to, just to hold it in place. I think mine's going to be fine though. Apparently, I didn't quite iron my fleece on well enough, so I'm just going to grab my basting spray. Birch quilt basting spray, and just glue it with that. This glue is safe for sewing machines, so it won't gum up your needle and break everything. Better. Alrighty. So then we're going to grab your flat panel and put it right sides together. And clip it down. Oh, I love them. Alright. And then just with the seam allowance, stitch around the edge, but I'm going to put my stitch length back to 2.5. Sweet. Okay. Trim down your seam allowance. If you've got zigzag scissors, now would be a great time to bust them out. Because the zigzag on the curves allows it to bend more freely, which is going to give you a nice edge. Alright, so I'm just going to turn that in the right way. And then I put my hand in and I push my finger along that seam to make sure that it's all the way out. And then you might want to iron that seam down, but because there's vinyl, obviously we iron it from the back. Now my lining, this fabric here is a drill, so it is already quite thick and it's got the interfacing. If you've used a thinner fabric, you might want to cut like an extra square of interfacing and just stick it down where the magnet's going to go, and that will stop it kind of trying to pull through. Where's my other gasket? There's 1, 2 halves. I don't know, it's got an MIA. I'll find it later. Excellent, so I'm just waiting for my iron to heat up and I'm just gonna press that down so we've got a nice edge, and then I'm gonna top stitch that edge as well to make sure that it all stays sitting nicely. I'll be back in 2 seconds. I'm just going to give it a quick iron. If you've got steam, definitely give it a shot of steam. That will definitely help. Okay, so back up to my 3 3/4. And I'm just going to top stitch around that edge. So I'm going to do about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm also going to make sure I back stitch at the start. So I'm just pushing that down as I go. Make sure the seam's nice and flat. Back stitch at the end as always. Alright, so now I've got a nice top stitch. So I'm going to find the center. Put in your magnet. I'm going to use my friction texter, which you can get from Woolworths, or you can get it from, what's it called? Officeworks. That's what I'm after. 11. Grab my gasket, line it up with the center, and then draw my lines. I'm going to use a craft knife to cut these. So mine is Kaiser Craft, which is in the scrapbooking section of Spotlight. But you can also get like a pen knife or just anything little that can stab, really. And then I'm going to get my fray stopper glue because this is a fabric and I don't want it to fall out. This comes out really, really fast. It's like water. So don't squeeze it. I squeeze it till I can see it coming into the head and then I stop. Because it will just go everywhere. Not ideal. Alright. Stab it through the hole. Put your gasket on the back. And then I push my little bits, I push them out. You can push them in. There is a debate about which way, in or out. Personal preference, you do you. Okay, flap is done. We're gonna pop that aside now. So I'm gonna grab a lining piece and one of my pocket pieces, and I'm going to draw my, what's it called? I'm having a blank. Zipper pocket. So I'm going 1 inch from the top, and then I'm going to center my ruler, draw my lines. I go 3/8 of an inch down. Then I'm going to stick that on my panel, on my inside lining piece. Go back to 2.5 stitch length and stitch around the box. Making sure I back stitch to lock the stitches in. The pattern does say to cut 4 of these, so you can have a zipper pocket on each side. I am just doing the one though. Tails in the bin. To be totally honest, I do miss the bin a lot. I have to regularly vacuum at the bottom of my bin because all the threads are there. It's mainly because I don't watch where I'm throwing it. I'm just in the general vicinity. It's fine. It's what vacuums are for. Alright, so I'm going to slice down the center. And then when I get about 1/2 inch from the end, I'm just going to triangle it out. So what I mean by that is literally cut a triangle. So I'm going to do that to both sides. Cut down and then cut a triangle. And then I'm going to push the panel through the hole. Like so. And I'm just going to iron all of that flat, just because my iron's on. You can also finger press it. Whatever makes you comfortable. I'm not finger pressing this because it is a drill, so it won't do it as well as I'd like. So just give it a quick iron. You want to get it as flat as you possibly can and as even. So there we go. I've now ironed it flat so it sits where I want. I'm going to grab my zipper tape and zipper head, and I've got a fork set up here that has been bolted to a clamp that is clamped to my sewing table. I love it. It's great. And it really just cost me a fork and a clamp. I did look up the proper zipper jigs. The cheapest one I could find was $50, and then it was like $30 postage because there's none anywhere near here. And I just decided I didn't need it $80, so we made one because my hubby is very, very handy. Very worth it though. Alright, so I'm just going to stitch around the pocket. If you wanted to, you could change stitch color here and have it orange or red or white or whatever floats your boat. So when I get close to the zipper head, I'm just going to make sure my needle is down, and then I'm going to lift the foot and zip open the pocket so I can get to the edge without any bumps. And then we're going to go back down the other side. Get near the zipper head, needle down, zip it up. Okie dokie. So now I'm going to grab the lining part of my zipper pocket and I'm going to stitch, I'm going to leave a little bit in the bottom. So I'm probably going to leave from there to there, but I want to stitch the rest of it down. So you can pin, actually I might pin this because it's going to move. There. I'm actually putting my clips in upside down because I'm about to flip it and sew it from the other way. So I'm on a 2.5 stitch length. I'm going to make sure I back stitch at the start to lock those stitches in and then sew around. So I'm going to stop about there. I want a decent sized hole because this is where I'm going to turn the bag through. Fantastic, so that's that piece done. So now we're going to move on to our outside and build it. So I'm going to take my 2 tab pieces. I have made mine 2.5 by 5. I want like a nice sized decorative piece. So I'm going to rule a line in the center. That is wider. Hold on, what happened there? So that one's 2.5. 1.25. This one's wider. I don't quite know what happened there. So I'm just going to trim off a 1/4 inch because apparently I was not paying attention when I ruled these. To be fair, it was 6:30 in the morning. Alright, double-sided tape. Down the center. Line them up next to each other and you can just do one long piece and then trim it at the end. Push it down, peel it off. And then fold into the center, same as our strap. There we go. So then I'm going to stitch 1/8 of an inch each side of that with a 3 3/4 stitch length. Oh, and I just unthreaded my machine. Alright. There we go. Down the other side. Grab the other one. Just chain sew them all. Shove them apart in a minute. Now I didn't bother back stitching on these because that bit's going to be completely hidden. So it won't really matter. Can't wait to get new snips. Okay. Grab our rings. Slide our rings on. So what I want to do is I want to try and join it in the middle like that. So that's going to give me a nice big decorative panel for the side. If you did what I did and did a contrast piece on your outer strap, you could actually make these pieces the same color. I'm going to use some double-sided tape on this to hold it down. Just because it's going to hold it a little bit easier for me. fold that down, fold that one up. Beautiful. Do the same to the other one. So I'm putting the join of the ring, which is just there, into the strap, so you're not going to see it. It doesn't really matter. It's just something I do to make sure that I don't ever see the other bit. Cool. So we're going to grab our gusset, which I have also put the fleece and the Formfuse 1600 onto. Grab my friction pen, and I'm going to measure 2 inches from the top, and then center, draw, oh actually it's 1 1/4, isn't it? So then draw my center line 1 1/4 inches wide, because that's what my hardware is. So that's where I want to line it up to. So I'm just gonna line that up with that line there, and I'm gonna stitch it down. So I'm gonna start at the bottom and go up and across. And then I think my machine's gonna have a meltdown about the thickness of this, so I'm gonna undo it and then do the last side. Line that up there. Hand crank 3 and go back. You can also do these out of fabric, just make sure you interface the fabric. And back stitch. So I already know that my machine will not go over this ring, so I'm going to pull it out and then just stitch the last side down from the bottom to the top. My walking foot machine would, but this one it doesn't. I have tried it. It looks messy. I don't like it. So for the sake of, an extra few seconds, I pull it out and just top stitch the other side. Trim off my tails. And then we're going to do the same to the other side. So that's what our tab now looks like. Whoops. I don't really have many tricks for this, just slow and steady wins the race, I guess. The bag's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Take your time. Trim off your tails. Yep. And then I'm going to come back and do the other side. Also, I am using a Teflon foot, which is helping glide over the vinyl easier. You can buy Teflon tape in a roll and put it on the bottom of your feet. I have seen that that's a thing. I don't know how well it works though, I haven't tried it. Can't be too bad though, because it kind of looks like what's going on here. There's just a Teflon coating underneath to slide it over. So there we go. Beautiful. So now I want to find the center of this. Oh, there's still another tail there. So I'm going to fold it in half, find the center, and just do a little clip. Same on the other side. So there's my centers. And then I'm just going to grab one of my outside pieces, fold it in half, find its center. And clip it together right there. I'm going to switch back to Wonder Clips. They hold bulk quite nicely. So I'm going to do 3 clips. I'm going to do the center one and then one each side so it can't move while I'm trying to clip it. And then I'm going to come up to that top edge and line those up because I want those to be lined up. This bag would also be super cute if you were to put piping in this seam. In fact, I might make another bag and put the piping in it. I've only got black piping on me at the moment. It's pre-made. I bought it in a roll from eBay. It was like, I don't know, 20 something dollars. So I'm just going along, clipping it all to make sure it's going to sit where I want it to. There was no issues there. Then I'm going to do the same to the other side. So we're going to go to the edge, line up that top edge, clip it down. I can't help throwing all my clips on the table. It's quite satisfying to do. I have a perfectly working container. I can't help it. Okay, so that is all my clips. I probably didn't need that many. I don't think it's going to shift on me. I'm going to crank it back to 2.5 stitch length, and I'm going to have my gusset side up. Take out my first clip. Make sure I backstitch at the start. Backstitching is important, people. Oops, missed. I should also point out I just put in the back panel, not the front panel, because the front panel we still need to put our magnet in. There you go. So now you can check that seam to see if there's any ripples or issues, and there's not, because I pinned it well, or clipped it well. Grab our front panel and we're going to put in our magnet. So let me just grab the pattern piece. Oh, hold on a sec. I'm just going to go get the magnet measurement. Sorry about that. I haven't actually made this bag before and I forgot to check where the magnet goes. So I've just gone and checked the pattern. And now I'm going to measure it and stick it in. So again, I want the center of the bag. So I have to clip it for the next bit anyway. And then I'm just going to measure up from there. Perfect. That's the wrong size bit. They're the little ones, not the big ones. I've got 2 size magnets, so I have 2 size gaskets, and I grabbed the wrong one. Lost the first one, grabbed the wrong one the second time. Third time is the charm though, because we are there. Grab my craft knife. The main reason I bought this one is because it has a case for the blade, and because I have a toddler, that's a really good plan. Alright, stab my holes. Grab my phrased up of glue. Just a dot. Put your magnet through the holes. Gasket slides on the back. Here you go, you can see this much better this time. And then I just push from the center out. It can hurt your fingers a little bit. I reckon you could probably use your ruler to stick it there and push, or a screwdriver, or whatever. Alright, let's attach our front on. So I'm going to line up the two marks that I've made. And then I'm going to pin or clip one more each side of that. What that does is if there's only one, it can still move around, whereas if there's three, it's like a solid wall of holding, I guess, before I start maneuvering the other end. So I'm just going to go along and clip it. You can go, so once you've clipped the top, a few in the middle, you can go bottom or top. It doesn't actually matter. So long as it's all fitting, that's all that matters. So I've got a little bit of a fold over there. So I'm just gonna fix that. And then over to the other side to do the same thing. Line up the top. So I'm making all my clips face the gusset. It's easy to pull them off when the right side's up. Oops. Awesome. Oh, it's looking awesome. Alright, gusset side up. And then sew with a 2.5 seam stitch length at the seam allowance. I have a sneaking suspicion I just ran out of bobbin thread. I did. I've only got another little one here. It'll do this seam, I think, and then I'll have to wind another one. I thought I'd get further with that, but anyway. It wasn't full when I started, so I knew I'd need another one eventually. So I'm just making sure that there's no bumps or overlap as I'm stitching, so that I know it's going to sit nice and flat for me. Alright, so just peek inside and make sure that nothing has folded or has any issues, which mine doesn't. So then I'm just going to trim down some of this seam allowance. Not all of it, but just, I don't know, I'm leaving just enough so I don't think the stitches are going to accidentally fall out. The reason I chop this off is it's going to make the bag sit nicer and flatter. If you've got zigzag scissors, you could definitely use them now. Sharp scissors are key for this. I have a whole bunch of different scissors that are 4 different things. So I have a Class A pair that used to be my sewing scissors, but they got blunt, so now they are just for cutting zippers. So they live over by all my zipper tape by the meter, and that's what they do. These ones used to be my fabric scissors, but now they're my cut off the excess scissors. And then my Fiskars ones with the spring loaded are for main cutting. Alright, so that is your outside made. Now we're just going to do the same with our inside. Making sure that our zipper is open, because that is important. We're going to fold it in half and find our center. For both the front and the back. And then also the gusset piece. We just want to know the center of everything, really. You can actually do this while you're all like cutting it all out, so you can mark your center as you're ironing everything together, and then you don't have to do it now. But I'm doing it now so that you can see that you need to do it. Okay, so right sides together, line up your 2 little clips, clip it down. So I'm going to do 3 in the center and then come up the top and go again. It's looking good. Alright, other side. So if you did both the zipper pockets on both sides, you actually don't really have a front and a back. They are symmetrical, so it won't matter. I have only done one, so I need to decide if I want my zipper pocket against the front edge or the back edge. I'm going to do the back edge because that's just the habit that I have. But that is entirely up to you. So right now, I am technically pinning my front. But they are the same, so it doesn't matter. There's also a good chance I run out of bobbin thread on this. Oh, I didn't. Genuinely surprises me. It'll be the next one then. Okay, next side. Line up the centers. 3 clips facing the gusset. And then from the top down. If you're confident enough, you don't actually have to clip this. I'm mainly clipping it because I've never made this bag before. I just cut it out and I'm kind of winging it. I did read the instructions, obviously. But after a while, you'll get a sense of how bags are constructed. Like everything kind of goes in the same spot and the same order. So like all messenger bags to me, I now see as the same. It's just the different end result shapes. And I really like this shape, which is why we're doing it. But yeah, you build your outside, you build your inside, you do your flap, you tack your flap, stick it on. Like it's all very similar. The more bags you make, the more you're going to feel that sense of similarity. That's not to say that I don't still love all the different types of patterns, because even though the construction pattern is the same... Oh, I just ran out of bobbin thread. Just because the construction pattern is the same, it doesn't mean the bags are the same. They still turn out lovely and different. It just... You'll get more confident because they feel similar in the process. Alright, so I just need to do a new bobbin. I don't have many seams left, but I am doing a top stitch, so I will want that to be the same bobbin. Lift my foot. I don't want to damage the bottom of it with the feed dogs. This machine's old school, so it does still move down here. I don't ever fill my bobbins 100% on this machine because it tends to have a bit of a meltdown anyway, and then I have to keep rethreading the bobbin because it overlaps and carries on. So I leave it probably 1 millimeter from the edge, but it's worth it for my sanity. So then I just tie my old one to my new one, pull it through. Half the machine is now threaded. I only do that on this machine because this bit here is quite fiddly and time consuming to rethread all the time. It's not impossible to do, it's just fiddly and I don't like to have to do it. So by chopping my threads and just pulling them through, I'm saving a lot of time for like that much thread. Alright, so I'm just going to go back to where I ran out of thread and go back a couple of stitches and start there, back stitch, finish it off. Chop off all my tails, which there are many. Okay, I think that's all of them. I'm going to trim down my seam allowance again, because it helps the bag sit nicely. It's also going to help with the top stitching because we don't want too much bulk at those seams. You don't want your machine to skip stitches because it can't hack it, basically. You don't have to trim down the seam allowance, but I do find the bag lining will sit in the corners and sit flush nicer if you do. And again, zigzag scissors are great. Mine are currently not in the sewing room. I think my toddler was playing with them. So I'll just use normal ones. Alright, turn your bag lining in the right way. Oh, it's so cute. Fantastic. So now I'm going to take my flap and I'm going to stick the outside against the outside of the side opposite to the magnet. So on the back of the bag, I'm going to stick right sides together. I'm going to fold that up too, actually, so it fits. So I'm going to center that along that back panel, and then I'm going to clip it down. So I can just eyeball it and center it, but you feel free to like fold it and clip it and find the center if you're not confident enough to do that. And then I'm going to stick, because I want my zipper pocket at the back, I'm going to stick it against the flap that I just put in. And then I don't know why, but I always start lining up the short sides first. So I'm going to line up the two seams of the outside and the lining at the sides. Alrighty. Then I'm just going to work the lining into the clips I've already put in. I'm going to put an extra one in that corner. And then I'm going to do the front. So you can just put as many clips as makes you comfortable. If you're super confident, you could use no clips. I don't even do that though, because I don't want it to move on me. Awesome! Oh, what is that? Random little bit of extra something something. So I'm going to start at a flat bit on the front of the bag, because there's the least amount of bulk and I'm going to be able to get it in and out the easiest. But I don't want to start on the corner. So I'm going to start just past a side. Do a couple of stitches and then back stitch. And just, I'm pulling the top back out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. And then just slowly going around. When I get to the side, I'm trying to roll the bag as best I can. Nearly back to the start, back stitch, and then clip off your tails. So with the edges here, there's going to be a lot of bulk there, and I still want to top stitch this. So I'm just going to cut kind of like a, almost a V, but just not a sharp pointed V, and take out some of that bulk. Just in those corners, because it's going to be easier in like 5 minutes. So as you can see, I've just taken out some of the bulk. I haven't gone too close to the stitches because I don't want them to obviously come out, but it's just going to help. So now we're going to go through the bottom of our pocket and reach in, and I'm going to grab the flap and pull the flap out first. Alright, and then I'm just going to work the lining over the rest of the bag so it's all kind of in it, like so. It's all facing the right way, and then I can just go in and slowly pull it out. So there's all of my lining, and now I just want to slowly pull the base out. Then I'm going to stick my hand in, and I'm going to run my finger along all the seams to make sure that it's all out and lovely. It'll make sure that there's no little tucks or nicks or anything like that all the way around. Beautiful. So now I want to stitch my pocket shut. So this one isn't going to work how I usually do it because it's a curve, not a straight edge. So you just want to go along and tuck under the seam allowance and clip it. If you didn't want to do this in the pocket, you could have done it in the lining, but I can hide the seam in the bottom of the zipper pocket. Nobody's really going to pay attention to it, whereas they'd notice it more in the side of a bag. So that's why I always do mine in my pockets. So I'm trying to keep that curve as best I can. So I'm actually just doing one side, then the other side, then back to the other side. Awesome. I'm going to switch to a white thread because I don't want blue in the bottom of that. That's going to look weird. Take it out of the needle. So I never pull the knot through the needle. You'll snap the needle. You don't want to do that. Oh, what's going on here? There we go. So I'm going to tie it to the blue one and then pull. Change my bobbin. I'm not putting this away though because I am still going to top stitch. You could also top stitch first and then do the pocket. I just have an order in which I do things and this is it. So alright, so I'm just going to stitch my pocket shut now. So I'm still just on a 2.5 stitch length. And I'm trying to stitch as close to that edge as I can without falling off it. You can barely see those stitches now because I did them in white, and you can just tuck your lining in. Oh, it looks awesome. This would actually be really cute if you stuck a zipper pocket on the back. Alright, so then I'm just going to grab some clips and clip the lining and the other bits down. You could iron this as well. Just make sure not to touch your iron onto the vinyl on the sides. Super important there. You won't be able to pin the back because there's a flap in the way, but that's okay. So I'm going to quickly switch back to blue and then do my final top stitch. See, so much quicker. The reason I have so many bobbins, I don't know if you saw that, I actually have like a lot of bobbins. One side is industrial strength, this stuff to make my bags, and the other side is to make my clothes. Because I love making dresses, really. It's my other obsession. And then I tend to make bags that match my dresses and make outfits. Or shorts or pants or whatever. Alright. So now I'm going to top stitch. So I'm up at 3 3/4. I'm going to move my container of clips out of the way. Fix my light because I keep knocking it. And I'm going to start at the back in the corner here. So I'm going to go over the flap first and then around the front. You don't have to do it that way. I just do. I'm not sure why. A habit I got in, I guess. So you want to slide your bag in. 3 stitches, back stitch, and I'm just making sure that I'm pulling on that flap to make sure that everything's flat and even. And then I'm just going to slowly stitch around the edge. The reason I'm going slowly is because I don't want to run off the edge, and I don't want this to be crooked because you will see it. And because the lining of my bag is white, you will definitely see it. So I could have actually left white thread in the top and sewn the bobbin thread with the blue, and then I'd have white on the inside and blue on the outside. But I kind of like the accent. I just didn't need the bottom of the pocket to have the accent. Back stitch 3, forward, and done. Trim your tails. Then I'm just going to melt. Yep, there's another one. How is there another one? That's the front one in the back. That makes more sense. So mine's just got a little bit of a... My front tail went into the back and made a bit of a knot. So I'm just trimming out the knot. Melt it down. Much better. Attach my magnet. So that's the bag. Now we're just going to attach our strap. So I'm going to use rivets for this. My handy dandy rivet press. I don't know where you can buy them in America. I only know in Australia. So Australia is greenbeans.com.au. I'm sure there is a place in America or China or wherever. Alright, so I'm going to measure 1/2 inch from the edge, and I'm going to put 2 rivets in because it's wide enough to do that. So I'm just going to measure my 2 rivet holes, and then I'm going to go 1 1/4 inches from those holes and make more holes. So if you're using a thinner metal, because I've got these in 2 thicknesses. This is the thicker one, so we do a full 1 1/4. Otherwise, you just do the 1 rivet. 1 inch, sorry. 1 rivet. 1 inch. I just give this an extra 1/4 to make sure it'll go around, and then my rivet won't be interrupted by the metal, and then it'll go wonky, and I don't want that. Grab your hole punch, and then punch out all your holes. And the other end as well. The reason I'm twisting is because my hole punch is a bit old, so by twisting it'll make sure it cuts the whole circle. If you've got a brand new rivet press, you don't actually need to do that. You can just punch, but I have to just twist a little bit to make sure it's going to cut my hole nicely, because I want the holes to actually be all the way through. So then on my, if you've got, what are they called, lobster claws, you can actually make the strap totally detachable, but I don't have any in this side, so I'm obviously not going to do that. So I'm going to put it through the center part of the tri-glide slide. Oh, I'm getting so much better at saying that. And then I'm going to put my rivets through the holes. So I'm going to put through one side and then line up the other side. and put the caps on. So I'm using double cap rivets. You can get single caps, so this end will be the same, but the backs won't have the cap part on them. I have bought some of those. I do them as like decorative stud kind of looks on my bags because I don't want to see the non-cap side. So then we're just going to use your press to squish them down. If you don't have a press, you can get handheld ones, which are cheaper than a press. Or what I used to do right back at the start is I get a pair of pliers and stick like a face washer in between and squish it that way. It's not perfect, and they can get a bit damaged, but it is an option if you're struggling. So now I'm going to go down. So I'm going to have the vinyl, the blue vinyl, touching the, metal. So we're going to go in that way, making sure that your strap is straight. We're going to go up and then back down your tri-glide slide, like that. And then I'm going to go in and that way so that my join is on the inside of the strap. So I'm going to grab my rivets again, stick them in 2 of the holes. It doesn't matter which holes, you can do it either way. And then back into the other side of the holes and put your caps on. Now when you squish the caps on, you know they're in place because you'll either hear them or you'll feel them kind of click or just go that extra little bit. That one didn't click. But you feel them, you kind of feel them grab and then you know they're on. So then we're just going to squish both of those down as well. And you are done. Just going to push my lining in so that you can see. It sits nice, nice and flat and right into the corners because we've trimmed down that excess. Whoop. So there we go. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will be doing another one tomorrow because I think this is number 9 of the 14 I promised. So I will see you next time. Bye.